So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Are there any public comments? Hearing none. Okay, I'd like to get an approval of the minutes for the November 3rd, 2021 meeting. Can I get a
moved?
Okay,
Second.
okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. The next docket item is a purchase order for an office space planning, okay, project. The amount not to exceed $12,500. Eric, would you like to give us a summary of this activity?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you all know, so now that we've gone cashless tolling, and we're there permanently, even though we don't have a permanent situation, the office situation has changed a bit. We've got the new operations section that is working with different staff in there, and we've got some different staff augmented in Katie's area down on Easy Pass with image review. Looking at the office now, we've decided it's time we need to take another look at everything. So there's been some changes, I believe, over the past several years prior to even me coming in. And when I look at the latest building plan that we had on record, there's been a few walls that have moved and such. And I think that between that and the fact that the office demographics has changed just as far as, who's where and whatnot, it's time to take a look at the office from a planning perspective. And I think we all came into that agreement. So we decided the best way to do this is to bring an architect in, fresh set of eyes, have somebody look at it objectively, and give us some ideas as to what can be done with the space, because I think we'll find that there may be some inefficiencies here and there among the office, and we can probably make some improvements for much shorter money than, for instance, putting an addition on a building, right, just off the cuff. So we went to the MPA, the state MPA. We asked Secotio Architects to give us a quote for such an effort, and they came to us with a proposal that we thought was reasonable. And it's a not to exceed amount of $12,500. And what he'll do is have his team come in, take a look at the office, do up some office plans from a high level perspective, not with a great amount of detail on it, but more from, placing furniture and cubicles and things like that on the plan to say, these are some options within your office space. That's essentially what it is in a nutshell. We'll get those deliverables from him, some options as far as what we can do with what we have. So,
Eric, is the maintenance building included in this? Did I read it correctly?
the maintenance building is included, mainly the upstairs portion where we have office space up there as well, because obviously downstairs is all garage space. There's really nothing to reorganize down there.
Right. Okay.
And it's tight quarters too, so getting it more organized is probably going to be more effective. Okay.
That's right.
So I'd like a motion, okay, to approve the office space planning project.
I moved that.
Okay, can I get a second?
Have a question, please.
Yes.
Was there more than one architectural firm on the MPA?
There are more than one on there.
Did you ask for quotes from more than one?
We did not. For under 25,000, you're allowed to get one quote, and we figured with the small dollar amount involved here, and with the fact that some of us have had previous experience with Secotio, we were comfortable with the quote of 12.5, not to exceed.
Okay.
I think that's Go ahead, Pete.
I'm okay with that logic for this, but in the future, I'd recommend that, however small, for the sake of maintaining propriety in your selection process, that you ask for more than one quote. But I'm okay. I'm okay with this to go forward.
Okay. So can I get a second? We gotta move, but we don't have a second.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now Jeff is up, okay, for number 5, which is an adjustment, which is an increase, by the way, in the overweight, over wide fees. The amount is minor, okay, 1,000 to 2,000. increase in fees. But Jeff, would you please explain why this would be needed?
Yes, and good morning, Madam Chair, members of the
Good
board,
morning.
Director Silvera. Agenda item 5 is a recommendation to update the fees charged for overweight and overwide for both the Mount Hope Bridge and the Newport Bridge. The updated rates are consistent with the rates charged by RIDOT and ensure that the costs incurred by the authority are covered by these fees. I dropped in a little table in the cover sheet. The Mount Hope Bridge does not allow overweight vehicles, and the current maximum weight is 40,000 tons. The rate, as you mentioned, would go from $15 to $40 on a per trip basis. And we're also instituting an annual blanket permit to make it easier as well. And that would be for $400. The Newport Bridge does allow both overweight, and overwide vehicles. We're also simplifying that structure to allow the $400 kind of annual permit. While the financial impact is minimal, as you mentioned, this does ensure that the costs that we incur as a result of this are covered by the fee.
Okay. And the consistency too, I think is
Yep.
important. Yes. Okay. To have one established rate for both RIDOT and the Turnpike and Bridge Authority would be good too. So can I get a motion to move this?
So moved.
Second.
Have a
Second.
question.
Yes, Peter.
I know that our folks in our bridge division are looking into maybe changing these fees in the future so that they align better with what the actual cost of administration of the system is, and also to keep in alignment with other states up and down the eastern seaboard, and also with our special situation with regard to bridge deficiencies in the state. So would you keep in touch with them about any changes, and then if there are changes made in the future, we can modify these here also?
Absolutely.
Great.
Definitely.
Chairwoman, I have a question. Just generally, philosophically, is there no charge for the Secaucus or Jamestown? And if so, if not, why? I know there's not, but
Eric, can you address that at all or no?
We don't have, as far as overwides, we don't have a charge on overwides. And I'm, and this could be a holdover from when these were transferred to our custody and control. So that's something, that's a good point, Peter. I think that's I think that's something that we can look into. We don't have a permitting issue for overweights necessarily on those. In fact, the controlling factor for Secaucus is one of the approach bridges. So that generally limits the weight on that one. And I don't know of a permitting issue on Jamestown, but for overwides especially, I think we can look at that.
yeah.
So I might add that the concept of the overweight fees is for using our bridge structures and causing additional wear and tear and damage to them by imposing an overweight load. So the location of a bridge that you're being charged this overweight charge for is probably less relevant than the fact that you're imposing that load on whatever bridge you travel over. So you may consider implementing those unless there is legislation that prohibits any kind of fee from being imposed on those bridges. This isn't a toll. This is actually a permit so that we can monitor where over the route of overweight loads and to properly manage their routes so that they don't travel over particular bridges that may cause a safety problem. So to be consistent, this is something you might consider implementing. Might take a little more research in that. I know there was special legislation with regard to tolls on those bridges. I'm I'm not sure that it applies to this. So, Peter, you have a valid point. It may be entirely proper to have a uniform policy for all of the bridges in the Turnpike and Bridge inventory.
And you know, Director Alviti, to your point earlier about you looking at your own fees again, right?
Yes.
The fees that we're charging, as you stated, that to really cover any damage or, you know, long-term effects on the bridge, right? The fees that we're
Right.
charging, we know they don't come close to even covering the damage that an overweight vehicle does to a bridge.
Exactly.
Not even
Exactly.
close, you know, so.
Exactly. So look, you know, it's something that you might consider. And I know it sounds like Peter would be open to expanding the program.
I think this is a good start, though, for consistency purposes. And then we can
And also,
continue.
just mention also for managing overwides as well, because if you've got a work
Yes.
zone on it, you want to know where they're coming from. You might direct them in a different direction if you know that you have a work zone that's limited. So I think just the combination of all that makes sense.
Right.
Good. Okay, so did I get a motion to approve this?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Okay,
I
all
don't
in
know if
favor?
I made the motion. I'm sorry. I can't.
Okay.
Okay, I seconded it already. Yes.
Okay, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? This motion carries. Now we're actually into discussion, okay, of which I'm going to ask our Executive Director, Laurie, to help us understand where do we stand with the dehumidification project, okay, for the Mount Hope Bridge.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and good morning, everyone. I thought it was important that we have this on the agenda just for discussion, since there has been some media coverage of it. And there also has been attention on the issue from the federal delegation and also from state elected officials. So I thought it was time that the board at least had the opportunity to hear where we stand. As you know, we submitted a RAISE grant for 25 million, we would have matched that 25 million with 10 million to get a $35 million project done. At least in the first round of RAISE grant money, we were not selected. The only project in the state of Rhode Island that was selected was a planning project, a $900,000 project that RIPTA was doing to create a corridor from Central Falls to Warwick. But there certainly from the US DOT seemed to be some more than a glimmer of hope that this was just the first round of funds and that there would be more money that we could pursue. There's also going to be a debriefing, which I hope to hear about any day now, because they said mid-January. In the meantime, there's been some coverage of the situation. We have gone out for an RFP and we have actually done the pre-proposal conference of some of the proposers who submitted proposals to do the dehumidification project. When the Mount Hope Bridge was built 92 years ago, there was no concept of a dehumidification system. The same is true when the Pell Bridge was built 52, nearly 53 years ago. It shouldn't be lost on anyone that the situation that we're in with corrosion of the wires within the cables is a direct result of climate change. It's the increased levels of humidity. So as I just mentioned before this meeting started, Senator Whitehouse and Senator Oyer held an Aquidneck Island climate change summit on Sunday night by Zoom. And they talked about attending the climate summit in Scotland several months back. And bridge and climate change certainly were mentioned in the same sentence several times. So we're not the only ones indicating that a structure as intricate and sophisticated as our suspension bridge or both of them over a body of salt water is susceptible to climate change. So not having succeeded in the first round of RAISE grant money, we certainly are not going to give up. We'll find out, we already have some ideas about how we could, what we could emphasize, including climate change in the next round. In the meantime, Jeff and I were before Senate Finance, and Jim Seveny, Senator Seveny from Portsmouth, he certainly identified this as a priority, and he has submitted this, and we have partnered with him in submitting this for consideration in the ARPA funds as well that have been allocated to the state. So that's another pot of money. And now we are also waiting for the bridge investment program portion of the infrastructure bill to have regulations that we can follow in seeking some of those funds for this project. So we're not giving up by a long shot. We have been asked, if we could have even a more significant amount of money, what would we look for in the way of bundled projects? And we have indicated, and as I just said, that the Pell Bridge too is a suspension bridge over a body of salt water that also needs a dehumidification system. So we would love to have the money for both of those systems, and redecking on the Mount Hope, as well as completion of the redecking on the Pell, which right now isn't scheduled to take place until after the Newport Pell Bridge ramp project has been completed by RIDOT. So that would be well over 100 million in a bundled project. And while it may sound like pie in the sky, we've had several discussions with the federal delegation, and it may very well be attainable. So we're optimistic, and we understand, by the way, that this has to be done whether the money is made available or not. So we will be taking a hard look at the capital plan and determining what needs to wait if we have to allocate funds to the dehumidification of the cables and the anchorages at the Mount Hope sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Thank you. Very interesting. I'm wishing we have some good news about it relatively soon. It's really pressing on me. Yes, Peter.
I have some questions. Lori, I think that's a great plan. In looking at the prospects for financing this project, you look at the things for sure first, right? And grants are wonderful, and promises from others are great, because if our congressional delegation puts their shoulder into grant opportunities for you, that'd be great. That means a lot in the probability of getting those grants. As a fallback, it's always great to have a plan B. So I'm glad to hear that you're looking at your capital plan, because that's the one thing for sure that you have, right? You have the funding to be able to implement your capital plan, because you apply fiscal constraints to it. And looking at that and shuffle and seeing how projects would be shuffled in order to fit this project in would give at least more definition to the time and scope that you'd be able to accomplish this come hell or high water. Excuse the pun, right? So it's great that you're looking at all of the opportunities, and the ARPA funding certainly, we'll know within the next several months, before June, probably, what the prospects of this project being funded as part of that. But barring the ARPA funds and barring the grant opportunities, I'm glad to hear that you folks are taking a look at the capital plan. Once you get an idea in the capital plan of what the reshuffling would look like, could you come back and brief us on what that would look like and how it impacts other projects?
We'll do that.
Great, thanks.
That would have to be done, I would think. Since something is going to have to give, we have to use our capital funds for this. It's quite a bit of money. Okay, Lori, you're also on for this suicide deterrent okay, measures that have been taking place.
Okay, and I think that Jeff and I were going to partner on that, Madam
Okay,
Chair.
Jeff.
So, but I'll kick it off by saying, you know, this has never left the radar screen for us. We have, this was a proposal that we did submit in March to the Office of Management and Budget in Providence for consideration. It was a $1.5 million study of what concepts might be feasible for our bridges. And Jeff, I'll let you take it from there in terms of what we've done since then.
Okay, great. Yeah, this is just a quick update on the actions taken to date. The requests for proposals were issued in July of 2021. The selection was qualifications based. In September of 21, we received 4 proposals. The firms submitting were AECom, Atkins, Parsons, and WSP. The selection committee was comprised of Eric Seabury, Steve Cahill, Frank Flowers, and me. The selection committee rated the firms and shortlisted 2 of the firms. That was Atkins and AECom. And we conducted interviews in late October and early November. At the conclusion of the interviews, the selection committee rescored, taking into account both the original RFP submission and the additional information gained from the interview. As a result of the rescoring, Atkins attained the highest scoring of 94 out of a possible 100 points. In December, we issued the award letter to Atkins, noting that a professional services agreement and a task order would be developed once funding has been provided to the authority. So that's where we are at this point. We are ready to negotiate that and develop a task order and fee with Atkins as soon as we receive the money.
And the only thing I would add to that, Madam Chair and directors, is that when Jeff and I appeared before the Senate Finance Committee and talked about these proposals, I did get some feedback afterward from the committee that we will likely to get that funding. So we're optimistic that it will be included in the ARPA fund allocations that we'll see coming out very soon.
Well, that's very good, because we haven't had a study like this before. And I think it's really important that we really aggressively pursue this, especially with the recent, number of incidents we've had over the last couple of years.
Madam Chair?
Yes, Peter.
If just to finish up that part of the discussion, as I understand it from your documents, the staff would come back to the board with a final proposal and
Oh, definitely.
with a cost proposal outline the whole entire process, correct?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I just assumed that. All
Yes,
right.
absolutely.
Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay, so let's keep moving. Okay, the next is the Laurie, the compensation
Right.
committee
Yes, thank you.
and the compensation plan.
So this item is on the agenda just really as a placeholder for just the general proposition that we do always need to be remaining in compliance with the Quasi-Public Accountability and Transparency Act, and that we are subject to audit under that act, and we have to make certain we've done everything that's required of us. One of the things that is required of the board is that the board have a compensation committee. And I forwarded yesterday a copy just of that section of the statute, which says, there needs to be a committee. I know that before Steve Wallach left us, he did appoint members of a committee, and the committee's duties are set forth in that statute. And it's on the agenda today, just as a sort of a docketing mechanism, just to remind the board that we do need to be, we do need to fulfill the obligations that are set forth in that section of the quasi-public statute.
Okay, and just so that everyone knows, both Director Alviti and myself were appointed, to the compensation committee by Steve when he was chair. And I have been working with Laurie to ask her okay, to develop a plan to submit to the committee for increases, okay, for all senior, okay, management that the committee can review and approve, okay? And then the committee will take on itself, okay, reviewing the executive director. So that's the way I would like to pursue it. And I think that meets the requirements that we have. So I wanted everybody to understand what the process would be. Any questions on that? Okay, well, we'll move right along then. I think the next thing we've got is our Director of Engineering, Eric, who gave me 13 million worth of projects, okay? And it's a very comprehensive list. I don't know how much you want to add to it, but the listing was pretty complete. How much of this money has been spent and how much is still to go? That was my question. I said it's 13 million of projects, but where are we in this?
Yeah, you know, I don't have that listed on the cover sheet where the summary is of what the expenditure is, but within each project, I do have that committed to date number listed. I've dropped some projects off. This was in the 20 some odd million total dollars. But as we've completed projects, I've gone through and I've dropped them off. So right now we're in, you know, winter mode. We finished up a bunch of projects. We're starting to add projects because you know, over the past several months we've added the phase 1 AET conversion project, right? And I'll just touch on the highlights of these sheets because, like I said, all the details are in here. But contract 19-1, which is the bridge electrical and communication upgrades for Pell and Mount Hope, and the ATMS are really together, but they're just being tracked as separate projects. We have a meeting later today actually to talk about the financials of those projects and see where we stand as we work to finish up Mount Hope. Newport is up and operational. The AI system that detects stopped vehicles and things of that nature, that's up and operational, except for the deployment of the speakers. That's one of our punch list items. But our TMT in the operations section is already working with that system, and so now things will pop up when a vehicle stops on the bridge, or if there's a pedestrian or a bicyclist, things of that nature. The system will automatically pop up a warning, and it'll show up on the screen and it alerts them to it. So that system is operational. As I said, Mount Hope, we're working on finishing that one up right now. So that will remain on here until we complete Mount Hope as well. We've got the AET project, which, you know, as you know, we already are cashless tolling right now, and things have been going along nice and smoothly out there. We are in the conceptual design phase, and we'll be getting a conceptual design to actually decide on from WSP in the coming month or two, and then they'll enter the final design phase for that project. We have contract 1913, which is miscellaneous steel repairs to Mount Hope and Secana. One big item that's happened on that one is the Piasecki Steel has started to erect the composite stairway and access to the north anchorage at Mount Hope. There was a foundation that had to be put in, and they're waiting for a few pieces of composite that needed to be remade because there was a problem in the fabrication, but that will resume in a few weeks. But there is some structure out there to go take a look at some point if anybody was interested. It's down at the base of the bridge below Roger. There's the side road there by Roger Williams University. You can actually see it from there. Guardrail and railing painting on the Jamestown Bridge has largely been completed. The only thing that we're finishing, and it's basically, you know, when we get a few mild days, is some touch-up paint and basically the sealing of the curbing, which is almost done as well. And we just finished up the Pell Approach Spans Bridge inspection. The consultant is working through getting the report done on that. We finished the Mount Hope interim inspection, and we had a meeting to discuss their findings on that and any needed repairs. And load rating is finishing up on Jamestown. And we spoke about the capital improvement plan. We're finalizing that from a project perspective and timing perspective. And then Jeff will be taking it and having the financial piece put together, the plan to finance several options. And that will talk about, you know, an option as to whether we get federal money from Mount Hope, whether we get, you know, some money for certain projects, but not all the projects, and then whether we get no federal money. It'll have options as to how this plan will be financed. So. You're muted, Judy.
I'm sorry, my dog keeps barking and I can see that it's impacting the screen. But I just said to myself, I'm looking and I'm listening to you and I'm saying, who is that behind you?
Frank Flowers.
Oh, hi, Frank. I could not figure out if he's far enough away that I keep saying, well, who is this? He's got his hands crossed, you know, like this. And I'm like, who is this? Okay, thank you. Very good. You've been busy and you stay busy, even though this weather is not helping anything very much in the last couple of days.
Yeah.
So I thank you for all of that.
You know,
And
it's funny with the climate change. We seem to get a lot more work done in the beginning of the what used to be winter months.
yeah,
I mean, because now winter doesn't really hit until here we are in January, right? It's January 12th. Winter doesn't seem to really grab a hold of us until middle to late January. So we keep working, you know,
I know,
later than say 10 years ago, you know.
in December, we had a couple of 60 days, you know, the weather was up in the 60s and it was like, this is crazy. This is December, you know.
Right.
So, you know, I agree. We're just having some very different changes. Although I kind of have a feeling we're going to have a kind of a difficult winter. I just have that sense. I don't know why. Maybe it's my bones rattling. I don't know. But whatever. Thank you so much for that, though. It's good to know that progress is being made in a positive way. And then, Jeff, I think you're up with the financials, okay, which we show we're 4.5 million of net income year to date, which is far better than the budget projected. So maybe you can run us through that. And
Sure.
these are the November, just so everybody understands, this is November of 2021. We tend to lag because of the tolling issues a few months.
Yes, the first page of the financial report is November month to date and November year to date compared to budget. With respect to the year to date financials, toll revenue was up 15%, and that is a result of the conservative approach we took when budgeting, as we did not know what the impacts of COVID would be on our top line. Our budgeted traffic was 90% of 2019 levels. And through November of this year, we actually achieved 95% of 2019 levels. So that's why you're seeing some of that positive variance. The gas tax is 5% higher than budget. Again, when I did the budget, I assumed 97% of what was provided to me by the Department of Revenue. So gas tax is up, and it's up over a budget primarily because of that, again, that conservative approach. Our year-to-date operating expenses are lower than budget by 25%. However, I do want to make one note. The budget assumed nearly $200,000 in severance payouts. However, those severance payouts, I was able to get booked into the prior fiscal year. So $200,000 of that 1.2 is as a result of we didn't have to pay out or record that severance payout this fiscal year.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Alright.
So if I exclude that from the calculation, the operating expenses were still 21% lower than budget as we continue to just look at how every single penny is spent around here. One other note too is the bridge inspections are lower than budget by 467,000. This is primarily due to timing. So I don't expect that large variance to continue throughout the year. That number will come closer to budget. We'll probably still have a positive variance around 200,000. So I just wanted to make note of that as well. So that's it versus the budget. When you look at prior year, year-to-date revenue is higher by 20% or $3 million. And that is due to the recovery or partial recovery from COVID. November year-to-date traffic was higher than prior year by 23%. And our year-to-date operating expenses are higher by 11% or $480,000. One thing, much like the last time we met, I did go back and look at how this year compares to 2019, pre-COVID.
Yeah.
And I'm pleased to report that revenue was up 1.7% or $300,000 compared to 2019.
Oh,
And our operating expenses are down 10.7% or roughly $570,000. So compared to 2019, we're doing very well. We're keeping up.
very well. Very
And
well.
that's,
I have a question.
yes, sir.
Oh, I do too.
How, I mean, it's great. It's a great position to be in here. You mentioned that the operating expenses are still, while the revenue is increased over pre-COVID timeframe, the expenses are still 10% less, even post, quote unquote, post-COVID. Do you think that is sustainable? Is that a savings that you've found efficiencies that could permanently stay in place, or do you think as we ease our way out of the COVID crisis that that 10% will go back to zero variance?
By my calculations, Director Alviti, probably about 70% of that will stick, and that's
That's
because
great.
it's coming through the personnel line.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there are various positions I think we've really thought about if we had them, or if they were filled in 2019, do we really need them now?
I understand.
And there's also, we are seeing the savings associated with the movement to all electronic tolling.
Yeah.
So as I mentioned, I think a couple months ago, I said there's roughly about $500,000 of savings associated with that. And you're seeing that come through as well.
Oh, that's great. That's great. It's every penny that you realize can go toward the, projects like the Mount Hope Bridge, or at least the state share of those as we apply for grants. That's great.
Have we seen any in or decrease due to the current surge in the virus? Because in November it was just starting to get intense, and now it's really intense. And I was wondering if it's starting to wean off a little bit now.
Lori, do you mind if I take that?
I don't mind. I know, I'll let me start it, Jeff.
Oh, go
by
ahead.
saying
Sorry,
that
go
I know
ahead.
that in November and December, we weren't seeing an impact, but I'll let you take it from there.
Chair, it's a great question, and I track the data on a daily basis, and it has impacted us.
I thought it would. Yeah.
What really got us was the snowstorm. I mean, we lost over on that day 19,000 vehicles alone. We were down 65% to 2019, and strangely enough, we were only at 50% of 2021. But yes, the numbers, because they were moving along very well,
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden you just see them go from 95% of 2019 to 85%, and it literally, from the data, it was like a flip of the switch.
So we might see some change in the amount of profitability, okay, over the next few months if the surge keeps going and things start to get, shut down a little bit more than they even are now.
Just to add to that, we did not see in November and December, as we realized we were in another wave of the pandemic, we did not see much of an impact, if any, really, on traffic specifically. I understand that Jeff's speaking to more recently the snowstorm, just as Tropical Storm Henri in late August also impacted our numbers for sure. So, you know, a day of no traffic is going to, but we did not see that in November and December with the return of COVID. We are, as Jeff has pointed out, we're starting to see it in various aspects of our operations now. Also, I can't go without mentioning that, much to the chagrin of Bill O'Gara, some of our savings are in legal fees. So that's definitely another reason why those numbers are the way they do.
Bill.
Sorry, Bill.
Could we have an emergency motion on that to correct that problem right now?
I love it.
Sorry,
Oh,
not
thank you.
sorry.
Oh, I thank you both, Jeff and Laurie, for that update. And now, Laurie, we're up to the executive director's report.
Yes, so,
I'm gonna put myself on mute again. The dog is going.
So I actually would like to share with you, I'm going to share my screen, if that's all right with you. So I'm going to hit this and see if I can show you. So I'm sharing with you the after picture of what our plaza now looks like, which is pretty exciting. I know that not everyone gets the opportunity to come down and see what it looks like, what things look like, but that is the after picture of how we are directing traffic. And obviously you can see that it includes the ramps out of Jamestown and into Jamestown. And if this were video, you'd see how smoothly it works with none of those gated lanes being utilized. We have made certain, by the way, just before the snowstorm, that though the outer gated lanes still will work for us in the event that we had an emergency in the open road tolling lanes in the middle. And that's compared, by the way, to see if I can get that. That's our before picture where all of the gated lanes were still operating. So when I take that down, you see again, you see the how well it is delineated so that all the traffic is directed into the open road tolling lanes in the middle. I mean, the comment's been made that that it's as if we don't even have a rush hour anymore. It's, you know, knock on wood that it's that smooth. So so that's kind of exciting. Judy,
Nice.
you're on mute.
My dog keeps barking, but that looks very good. Thank you for that.
It's I only wish you could see it. To me, it's even more of an impact if you see it from our offices, because we used to watch bad choices being made in the plaza. Do I have cash in my pocket? Do I have a credit card in my pocket? Is my transponder properly mounted? Did I leave it in my teenager's car? You know, which lane am I going to choose? Oh, I'm going to make a last minute decision and choose a different lane. And we watched all of that happening outside the window. We don't, knock on wood, we don't see that anymore. It's open road tolling. It's really pretty impressive. So anyway.
I have a question.
Yes.
It's great. The open road really has streamlined the amount of traffic and the ease that you can go through there. Do you have any plans for the existing plazas to be demolished and that part of your property renovated in any way?
Yes, we do. The plaza, we're looking at about 18 months from now. The plaza itself will be demolished, and that is after we've finished the design, which we're in the design stage now, and then the siting, and then the construction of a new gantry that will be located, if I go back to sharing the screen. So we're looking again at, you know, so if we're over here and you see the offices next to the plaza, the gantry will be located in the vicinity, perhaps beyond structure E, which is the structure that crosses over the road into Jamestown underneath it. I don't know if that's an extension of Free Body, but the new gantry will be beyond that point. It's important to me, even though it's still quite a distance from where the bridge goes out over water, it's still very important to all of us that it be both functionally and also aesthetically appropriate for the Pell Bridge. We're not going to do anything that detracts from the beauty of this structure. So we're in that process now. We're looking at demolition of the plaza probably in about 18 months. We've already had questions about what are you going to do with the old toll booths? What are you going to do with the Art Deco sign that says Newport Pell Bridge? We're going to keep all those things in mind as we determine how to proceed.
And the new electronic tolling gantry that you have adjacent to the existing plaza, what will happen with that? Will that also be removed at that point?
Yes, it will, Director. And I actually asked at one of the first meetings on the design of the new gantry, I asked if any of the software in the open road tolling lanes could be repurposed. And the contractors were candid in saying, not really. The technology progresses in this area very quickly. It's a different kind of technology that we have in those open road tolling lanes. We did, as you know, and as you could see from the screen sharing, we do have double lanes in each direction now. So there was a lot of software added. But when the new gantry is installed, it will be new software, more sophisticated software, more accurate software and it'll be state of the art when that actually, and as I say, we're still in the process of finalizing the choice of location and then the choice of design. There are a number of decisions to be made. Do you choose a walkover type of gantry? Do you choose which allows for repairs by walking over versus one that is repaired by use of a bucket truck? Other decisions like that we've had to confront as we make our way through the design stage, which we're currently in. But I expect that all of this will move quickly, and before you know it, we'll be settling on an exact location and moving into the construction phase.
Great.
I wanted
Thank
to
you.
comment on how smoothly the electronic, processing has gone. That was a lot of work from the whole team, and I want to thank everyone for, because I haven't heard one hiccup. I know the day of the switchover, there was a little hiccup, but it certainly didn't impact, any of the process. And I think all of you deserve congratulations for implementing what was a very difficult yet smooth process of switching us over from manual to electronic tolling. That's quite a feat.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I think that's a great segue for me to mention that we now have a new acting director of tolling operations. As you know, Kathy retired, and Katie is now officially in the role of acting director of tolling operations. And the reason I say it's a nice segue is I know I told the chair that as we were transitioning into all electronic, we were the proverbial duck that looks calm on the surface, but underneath we were paddling like heck. And one of the people who was paddling the hardest was Katie Coleman, the new director of tolling operations. And she, the night we switched over, she actually had an inflatable mattress here and her pillow and blanket, and it's a good thing she did because there were glitches as we inched, or in our opinion, we were racing towards 7 a.m. when we no longer had toll collectors and we needed to be all electronic that morning. But at 3 a.m. she was identifying issues that were resolved by 7 a.m. So I'm thankful to everyone. The whole team was wonderful, and I'm thrilled. Katie had a great mentor in Kathy. Kathy did a great job at succession planning, and I'm confident that this is going to work out very well.
Very good.
Congratulations, Katie.
Congratulations, Katie.
Great job.
Okay. So
job.
the other items on my report this month, federal funding requests, I've already mentioned that to to a large extent, that we are trying to make certain that we're in line for any pot of money that becomes available and that is suitable for the projects that we have. I mentioned the bundled projects and our capital plan. So, and we have had tremendous cooperation from the federal delegation and from the state as well. So we're grateful for that. And we are optimistic that we'll have good news. I'm determined that we will have good news in the future on that subject. Traffic update, Jeff's already talked about. We really pretty much hit it out of the park. You know, we really got back to where we needed to be back compared with 2019. That's great news for Aquidneck Island. It's great news. We always keep the tourism industry, the entertainment and hospitality industries. We keep them abreast of what's going on so they know, that it means good things for their industries as well. So that's great news for us. I have on here, I wanted to mention that we did our medical, dental, and vision updates. I've never been involved in a renewal of a health plan that resulted in a decrease, and yet that's what we had this year, a decrease of 3.2% with no change in the benefits, which is another just something to celebrate. No increase in vision and dental. Everything remains flat for calendar year for the coming calendar year. So that's great news too. And the last thing I wanted to mention is that we always, because we are to be responsible keepers of these bridges and the funds that are allocated to them through bond revenue, we are always looking at opportunities for refunding, which, if it were our mortgages, we'd be using the term refinancing. But in the bond world, the concept of opportunities for refunding are always on our minds. We always do the right thing of going back to our bond advisors and saying, are there opportunities for savings? There may be some opportunities for savings right now by virtue of a refunding of the 2016 motor fuel tax bonds. Jeff, if I'm not mistaken, the potential savings look to be in the range of 3 to 5 million, possibly. Do I have that right?
Correct, and it would be a partial refunding, just a partial.
Yep. Okay. So we're looking at that. No, obviously this is not on here for any kind of. We're looking at it to see, again, it's just being responsible in terms of it, just as with other savings that we've identified today. Is there any other savings we can reap? And this may be one area where we could reap some. So I wanted to just mention it.
Very good.
So that's the report for today.
Very good. Wow, you've been busy. You've
We
been
always
busy
are.
as a group. Okay. Are there any other questions from any of the directors or staff, or everybody good? Well, I'm still not doing as well as my predecessor. It's almost 9:30, but I'm trying that way, but learning a lot more about the operations and what's happening. So if there's nothing more to discuss, okay, I guess I'll see you next month at is it February 12th? I think it is, just before Valentine's Day. I think that's the date of the next board meeting. And I hope we get our other.
Does anyone have the calendar up? Because I
think that's what it is. I'm not sure, but it's okay. Our February meeting anyways. Okay.
Okay, I just think it's the 16th.
Oh, the 16th. Okay.
16th,
After.
February
Okay.
16th. Yep.
Okay. So hopefully everybody will be able to attend that meeting. Okay. I thank everyone for their time. Okay. And again, congratulations to the staff for a job well done. Okay. And
Like a motion
transferring
to
over.
adjourn?
Yes.
Would you like a motion to adjourn?
Yes. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Have a good day, everyone. Stay warm.
Thank you.
Take
Adios.
care. Bye-bye.